Hello, this is Siri and you're listening to my favorite podcast, Not Real Art. I live for this shit cause it's totally lit.
Let's go!
Not Real Art, the podcast. Man One in the house.
Hello. What up?
What up, what up? So last time we were chatting, you didn't really know what to call me.
All right, I know. It's been a while, and I figured you may have come up with something by now.
Well, last time I was Mr. X, right? Because it was a placeholder.
Yeah, that's right.
know?
Yeah.
And you're probably scratching your head going, what the hell's this issue? Like, what's the fucking big deal? I mean, well, your name is Scott Power, so that's kind of an interesting name right there. Mm-hmm. Like, what's so bad about that? Why don't you just go by that?
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, dude, like, this whole, like, exercise of, like, doing a podcast and coming out, publicly with this thing has, like, been, like, weird for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not used to this shit.
Right.
I like to be incognito. I like to be in the background. I like to be able to sort of, walk around. No one knows my name and stuff.
Sure.
You could commit great crimes that way.
Right.
And, when I moved to L.A. in 2001 from Chicago, I'd lived in Chicago for 31 years. Not once in 31 years had anybody ever asked me, is that your real name? Until I moved to L.A.
Oh, really?
When I moved to LA in 2001 and I went to the DMV or I went to the bank or I went to wherever to set up my bank account, get my license here in California.
Yeah.
They would say, well, what's your name? I'd say, my name's Scott Power. They go, oh, that's such a great name. Is that your real name?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, it's my real fucking name.
Mr. Power. Is that a real
Power.
name?
Right. Don't call me Powers, asshole. It's Power.
Yeah.
So, it apparently has a good stage presence about it since LA, is the kind of place where people want good stage names.
Right.
But, I just have issues. I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want to necessarily call myself Scott Power on the podcast. Like, I got you have a cool name. You're fucking Man One. Man One. I won't even say your real name because your real name, it's cool, but it's not as cool as Man One.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what can I do? So it took me a minute. It took me a minute to kind of figure out because, I just want to make up a name. Like Man One, you are Man One because you've honed that.
Yeah.
Over years. I mean, decades.
But everyone always calls me that without even knowing.
Yeah, that's right.
I see them and they're like, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
They
don't even know your real name.
They don't even know it and they know it.
Right. So, right. And so, you've earned it and it came naturally. Your story is it's a great story how you got your name Man One. And obviously we'll talk about that at some point. But I'm like, I just didn't want to make up a name.
Sure.
That didn't matter or that didn't mean anything. Like, so I had to think about it for a minute, like what kind of name would be like meaningful and have some integrity that I could actually like look somebody straight in the face, look myself in the mirror and say it without laughing or feeling like a poser or something,
Yeah. So,
is there a drum roll?
I guess that's as close as it's going to get.
So I came up with Sourdough.
Sourdough.
Scott Sourdough Power.
There you go.
Now you're scratching your head going, what the fuck? What the fuck do you mean sourdough? What is up with that? Scott Sourdough Power. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm confused, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, what's up with sourdough? How Well, by the way, I would have never guessed sourdough in a million years.
That's kind of what's interesting about it, right?
I wouldn't have guessed it. And
you've known me how long?
Since whatever.
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah. Never guessed it.
Never guessed it.
Yeah, and then when you asked me, like, what the heck,
Yeah,
what
does it mean?
Yeah. It was kind of interesting, right? Or not.
Well, it's not a common name.
Yeah.
It's not something that we would have thought of. It's not
very street.
It's not very street. It's not it's not even like a how could I say it? It's not even sexy.
Yeah, no.
But it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little fucking, like nerdy and bizarre.
Yeah. So now here's the question. So now that you're sourdough,
Right.
officially,
Yeah.
are you gonna let people know how you got sourdough, or is that?
I'm gonna break it down for you right now.
Oh, you are.
I'm gonna break it down for you right now.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, that's it. Because of course I'm not from San Francisco. I mean, some people might go like, "Wait a minute, okay, San Francisco is famous for its sourdough. He must be from San Francisco."
Yeah.
No, that's not it. That's not it at all.
And also, if people who listening on the podcast and hear the name sourdough, they also might think you're some chunky dude.
Yes.
And you're not.
Well, 300 pounds. It's
not.
It's all muscle.
That's yeah.
Right. So sourdough, as some people may know, they think of it as a bread. Sourdough bread.
Yeah, that's what
Do
I
you
think.
know why it's called sourdough? Like why sourdough bread is sourdough bread?
I have no idea. There's some. No, I don't know. Actually,
Okay.
just go ahead.
So I'm going to drop some knowledge right
Yeah,
now.
go for it.
All right. So sourdough is called sourdough. Sourdough bread is called sourdough bread because it's made with a leavener. It's not made with yeast. Most bread is made with a yeast of some kind, right?
Right.
A starter, if you will, that sort of activates the ingredients to allow the dough to rise and bake and taste good. Well, sourdough is a kind of leavener, a kind of yeast. Right? It's sort of gives the dough its flavor because it's a sour flavor, but it sort of activates the other ingredients to bake the bread. Now, in San Francisco, the reason San Francisco is famous for its sourdough bread is because it has a very distinct and unique flavor that is only found in the Bay Area.
Okay.
The reason it's only found in the Bay Area is because it is linked to a bacteria that is only found in the Bay Area. So the sourdough has this bacteria that gives it its unique flavor. Now, what you need to understand about a sourdough starter, a leavener, it's kind of like it's a living thing.
Well, that much I've heard about. Like it's a living organism.
Right,
Or
it's a living organism. So you use that when you don't have yeast.
Yeah.
You use sourdough. You add some sourdough. They call it sourdough starter. So you add the sourdough starter, then you add the additional ingredients, flour, whatever. You make the dough. You bake the bread or the pancakes or the pizza crust or the beer. You can even make sourdough beer with sourdough starter. Right. So why does any of this matter to me?
Right.
So in 1991, I moved just south of the Arctic Circle.
Right.
From Chicago. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell did you do that for? Well, it's a long sordid tale that I won't bother going into right now. But when you're living, essentially off the grid, which we had no electricity, we had no plumbing. We were 500 miles south of the Arctic Circle. We were 120 miles away from the nearest town. Mm-hmm. We were 120 miles away from the nearest grocery store, the nearest bakery. And so when you're living off the grid like that, you've got to bake your own bread.
Right.
And also, when you're living off the grid like that, you're making pancakes, you're making breads, you're doing all kinds of stuff, right? Well, sourdough becomes a very useful thing to have when you're living in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So I actually became very good at sourdough cooking. Right? And in fact, a publisher once had some of my bread, and he was impressed enough to say, "You should why don't you write a cookbook, sourdough cookbook for us?"
Right.
So, believe it or not, fun fact, I am a sourdough cookbook author. Cooking the Sourdough Way.
Huh.
It's in its second edition. It's on Amazon.com. Okay?
Wow.
It's been on the market since I think the first edition came out in 95.
Right.
And so you're looking at a sourdough cooking expert.
Expert.
Okay?
Wow.
Okay? Now, there's a double meaning, right? Because I mentioned I lived up north, right?
Right.
Well, in Alaska, and I wasn't in Alaska, I was in northern Canada, right? But we were still in the Arctic. I mean, 60 below zero in the winter.
Sure.
Okay. There were polar bears knocking on my door.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were moose, walking outside, my cabin walls. And so in Alaska, back in the gold rush and all that stuff, you had all these city folk coming up there looking for their fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And they were greenhorns. They were wet behind the ears. They didn't know shit from Shinola about how to go live in Alaska.
Right.
Okay. Well, the locals there, they called those guys Chachacos. They were
Chachacos?
Chachacos. They were greenhorns.
I like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They were greenhorns. Okay.
Okay.
Well, you're all, I was a Chachaco
Yeah.
when I moved to Canada. Okay.
Right.
Well, a year later, right, or years later, after you live there and you earn your stripes and you pay your dues and you learn some lessons, you become a vet. You become a seasoned vet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Alaska, the old timers, the guys that have been there a few seasons, they're called sourdoughs.
Oh, really?
They're called sourdoughs.
How do you go from Chachaco to sourdough?
That I do not know. That I do not know. But the old guys, the old timers who know their way around, the backcountry, who understand how to survive off the land, how to, hunt for their meat, bake some bread, make some sourdough pancakes.
Right.
They're called sourdoughs.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you may not know this. Most of our listeners don't know this.
Yeah.
But you are sitting across from a sourdough.
From a sourdough.
Right? I can make sourdough, but I can make sourdough because I can also live off the land in the middle of nowhere in the Arctic if I so choose. Been there, done that. Not necessarily going to do it again.
Yeah, I hope not.
But that's why I've chosen sourdough as my pseudonym.
So it's actually like a badge of honor.
Well, I'll leave that to you to say that. But yes, I take it as an honor. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
You're not Chachaco.
No, I'm not a Chachaco. No, look, there's something to be said for knowing how to start a fire in the rain. There's a certain...
I couldn't do it.
A lot of people can't.
I would be a Chicano Chachaco.
But you stick with me.
Well, yeah. Of course I would.
Yeah, see, it's cool to be a Chachaco when you're with the sourdough. And see, yet, when it comes to art and culture and so many things, you're going to school me. Right?
But I'm not a sourdough.
No, you can't be everything.
So how does the sourdough, since we talked about it being a living organism,
Yeah.
Where do you get it? How is it how do you keep it? I mean, I don't understand.
Right.
If it's living.
Yeah, well,
Can it die?
It can die. And
So-
in fact, there are stories of sourdoughs that have been passed down for generations because it was started by someone, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but it was passed down. And so some sourdough starters are decades old, if not more.
So where did you get your sourdough from?
Well, so what you can do is you can sort of make your own starter with flour and water, and you throw in some baking. If you have some baking soda or if you have some yeast, you throw a little yeast in there, and you let it sit. Okay. And it starts to activate. Okay. And it starts to smell sour. You have to let it set in in a kind of a warm area for about 48 hours. Okay.
Okay.
And what happens is, to keep it living, you have to feed it, right? It's a living organism,
that's
right?
what I'm saying.
So you add a cup of flour and a cup of water every few days. Right. And to slow the growth, if you can, you try to put it in a cool area. So believe it or not, right now in my refrigerator, I have sourdough starter, which I keep.
That's what I was going to ask you next.
That's right. Say, hey man, I got to keep it real. Right? So yeah. So you keep it in the fridge.
Yeah.
Slows the growth, but I have to feed it once a week.
So how long have you had that one?
This one's fairly new. I think a couple months,
But But you could have it years?
I could have it years if I was more responsible.
Okay.
if I kept my eye on the ball.
Right.
A bit better, I would maybe have one that was. I could have one. I started doing this in '91. I could have one that's 30 years old, but I'm not that.
Would the
good.
taste change over those years, or?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know the answer to that. It could probably become a bit more sour, but I think it's generally the same. It's just that sort of sour flavor profile.
Wow.
Now the San Francisco sourdough bread I mentioned it has a unique flavor profile because of the bacteria in that ecosystem, that you can only get there. And in my book, you can read about it.
Oh, I wish I read.
Well,
if it has pictures, I'll check it out.
Yes, there are pictures. I'll give you an autographed copy after the show.
Awesome.
But so you can just you can call me sourdough.
Sourdough. Wow.
Yeah, I'm coming out, man.
You're coming out big time.
So there's I need a pseudonym that meant something, that was rooted in something, that had some meaning to it,
Right.
Some integrity.
And it's not when I heard sourdough, that's not at all where I went with it.
Where did you go with it?
Well, obviously it was bread and food thing, but I didn't see it as a badge of honor as I do now.
Right. Yeah, no, there's an interesting backstory.
That's a very interesting backstory.
Yeah. And when you go to if you go to Alaska, or when you read if you read about the history there or whatever, and you hear about sourdoughs, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the OGs of the bush, the mountain man.
Right. So now this is going to be the Not Real Art podcast, Man One and Sourdough.
That's right. Man One and sourdough, baby.
Wow. And you're not going to change it again. You're sourdough.
No, this is it.
This is it.
I don't, it was hard enough coming up with one.
Right.
Can't change it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's almost Man One and Sourdough is almost like a TV show.
Who knows?
Or animated.
It's got legs.
Animated series. It's got legs.
It's got legs.
It could be one of those. What is those crazy animation shows?
Well, there's like stop motion. There's CG. There's
No, I mean like those channels where they have those X-rated animation videos.
You had me at X-rated.
Yeah. All I'm saying is the Man One and Sourdough isn't for primetime viewing.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm saying.
No, believe me. Yeah, this is definitely after hours shit.
It is after hours.
I know. And and it's it feels nice to be part of a fraternity, of sourdoughs. To know there's a certain power that comes with independence, right? Or self-reliance,
Yeah.
And to be able to know that as long as I have my sourdough, I'm good. I'm good to go. I can eat. And have you ever seen the movie Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford?
No.
Okay.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Is it about sourdough?
Well, there's a sourdough in it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Robert Redford's character, if I recall the movie correctly, he was like a former military guy, and he had enough. He was sort of suffering from like some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder kind of thing. But I mean, this was like turn of the century, like early 20th century kind of setting, right? So
sounds like Rambo, what you just described.
Well, yeah, that's Vietnam. This is maybe 50 years before that, right? In terms of and so he decides that he's got to just go live in the mountains because he's just had enough of mankind. He's had enough of the fighting and the bullshit.
Right.
So, but he's a Chaco. He's a greenhorn. He shows up, and he like tries to go live in the mountains, and he damn near kills himself. And he's rescued by this mountain man.
Sure.
AKA Sourdough. Named Grizz. They called him Grizz. And Grizz was called Grizz because he had killed several grizzly bears in his day. In fact, he had a necklace of grizzly bear teeth.
Of course.
You know.
With his bare hands.
That's right. And so he schools Robert Redford in the ways of the wild, you know.
Right.
And then they go their separate ways. And what's interesting about the movie is, like, there's basically no dialogue in the movie. There's like no, because he's just in the wilderness by himself, like all the time.
Yeah, of course,
right?
yeah.
But it's a beautiful movie. It's a beautiful movie to watch, right? Well, there's this horrific scene later in the movie where he comes across this white family that had been, of course, they were. You know, what's interesting about this, of course, is that the subtext is that you have, you know, these pioneering white people coming and stealing the land from the indigenous people there, right? So there's this situation that he comes upon where there was this fight between some local indigenous and, you know, this white settler, and they had killed. He had lost, but they had left. I'm probably gonna get this right because you know what it was the wife was like the daughter of one of the tribesmen or something, right? So she was called the squaw. That was her title, right? And so she's left there and she's, you know, freezing, and so Robert Redford's character comes and takes her and saves her, and they are together, you know, after that. Sidebar. I'm having a 40th birthday party for my sister-in-law at my house a couple of years ago, and I'm meeting one of her friends, serving a drink to him, and start chatting with him. And turns out, of course, being in LA, he worked in the business or whatever. He was an actor or something. And I said, well, you know, did you grow up here? He said, yeah. He said, my mom was actually an actress. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I'm like, was she in anything? He's like, yeah, you probably never heard of it. I'm like, well, what is? She's like, well, she, like, her claim to fame was that she was in this movie with Robert Redford called Jeremiah Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. And he's like, no. I'm like, he's like, you've seen it? I'm like, several times. And he's like, I'm like, what did your mom play? He's like, oh, she was the squaw. I'm like, your mom was the squaw, and one of my, you know, I mean, it was just like small world, only in LA kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
And so, so anyway, so the movie ends. So I won't give the ending away because I know you want to watch.
Yeah,
this.
I can't wait to watch it.
Yes.
Tonight.
Towards the end of the movie, Robert Redford's character meets up with Grizz again.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've seen the whole movie, you understand how tumultuous this journey has been. You know, he was this idealistic Chichaco coming into this wild, you know, wilderness setting. He thought life would be beautiful, but of course it was nothing but danger. And I mean, yes, it was set in this gorgeous, pristine wilderness, but he damn near died several times. He had to kill, he had to, you know, all this stuff. And so he sees Grizz at the end of the movie, and Grizz just looks at him and goes, well, were it worth it, Pilgrim? And the question is just so loaded, right? You know what I mean? And the look on Redford's face is, you know, like you wonder. I don't think it was worth it. Or was it? He did get the woman. He did get the, you know, he did get the damsel in distress.
Right.
So anyway, this is a little the culture of my life and why and how I ended up with the pseudonym Sourdough.
Wow. Well, now I know, and I'll never think of sourdough in a different way ever again.
Have I expanded your consciousness, Man One?
Like sourdough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's growing in my head.
This knowledge is like a leavener to your intellect. It's rising.
In my own special bacteria.
It's doubling in bulk. That's right.
Wow, sourdough. All right,
Man One and sourdough. Can you deal with that? Can you live with that?
I'm gonna have to. I have no choice.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's real shit. You know?
It's the real shit. Sourdough and Man One. We'll see how that plays.
Well, you know, our listeners will weigh in. I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of hate mail.
Yeah, of course.
You know, if I'm lucky, you know, maybe someone will say, I love sourdough.
But I do love sourdough.
See?
Yeah,
A lot of people do.
and I didn't know the San Francisco angle to it.
Right.
But now that you mention it, that's why I love sourdough in San Francisco. You're right. It does have a special taste.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
And when you get the clam chowder in the sourdough bowl,
That's right. That's right.
that's heaven.
Let's just think of me when you have the clam chowder and the sourdough bowl. See, what's great about that? About my name, my pseudonym being sourdough, is that I, like sourdough, am an acquired taste.
That's true.
Not everybody likes sourdough.
No.
Not everybody likes me. So
That's a good point.
I think it works. I think it works on multiple levels.
Right. And it's a living organism.
I try to be a living organism.
And if you don't take care of it, it's going to die.
I try not to die.
Perfect.
There's so many connections. So many tie-ins.
All right. Well, you heard it, everybody. Sourdough in the house.
Sourdough and Man One. So enough about me. What about you? What do you think about me, Man One? How the heck are you, bud? How's life?
I'm doing good. Just oh man, there's just so much going on in all aspects of my life.
Talk to me. What's going on?
Well, God, let's see. Where do I start? Now that my kids are adults, I have a 20-year-old, or they're going to be 20 this year, twin boys.
Wow, crazy.
18-year-old daughter, just
Yeah.
starting college, off to college. So it's like, now what? Now what?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like for example, my daughter just spent yesterday was her first night at school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not really in school yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of she plays soccer, so they have this like a camp.
Orientation? Okay.
Well, it's a camp for younger kids.
Okay.
And their school team kind of trains these kids.
Got it.
So they use it also as like a getting to know each other for the team, and kind of like getting their feet wet.
Sure.
At the new college experience. So so she's there all week. This week is this is her first time leaving the house to go to college, even though she's only like 20 miles away.
It's not home.
So this morning she's like texting my wife and just like, homesick.
Yeah. Stressing.
Yeah.
Wow.
They won. Day one. By the way, she left yesterday at 2 p.m. or 1 p.m.
So
or
it's
something.
less than 24 hours.
Less than 24 hours.
Right.
And she's homesick. And she wants to come home. And she doesn't know about college anymore.
No place like home.
And she's freaking out. She doesn't think college is for her.
No. We all think that. We all thought that at one point.
I said it's too late.
You're in. You're done. You're going.
We already got the loans.
That's right. We've already repainted your bedroom, and it's now a office.
Yeah. So it's crazy, but so it's a whole new chapter now in my life as a parent, and it's
It's growing pains.
Yeah.
Growing pains. Transitional. Stressors. It's big stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting watching your kids go through this stuff and trying to give them the right advice and all that. But everyone's different.
Yep.
So
I mean, when you went off to college, it was a similar situation, right? Because you grew up in Alhambra, right? You went to school at Loyola Marymount,
right?
And what is that? Playa Vista? What is that?
Yeah, it's like Westchester,
right
by the LAX airport.
So 20 miles.
Yeah, so
miles.
it at the time back then you could still drive that in about 35 minutes.
Right. Right, but so I'm just trying to draw parallels. So
Yeah, very
so
similar.
for you. So I mean, it was close, but still wasn't home. It was far away.
Yeah.
How
It was close enough to come home every weekend, but far enough that I had to dorm there.
Yeah. So what was your first night like? Were you raring to go and happy not to be at home, or were you homesick as well?
Oh no, I couldn't wait to move in.
Right.
You know, also playing soccer at school. You know, soccer is a fall sport, so you start training at the university level before school even starts. So school started, well, back then, school started beginning of September, and by mid-August, we were already training.
Sure.
So the school was closed, but so we weren't allowed to dorm there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we would, so for the first 2 weeks, which was like Hal Week, where we'd have 2-a-days, I would literally, you know, drive to school at like 5 a.m. to be there by 6, train twice a day, and then drive back home about 6 p.m. and exhausted, you know.
Sure.
But there was no other choice because I couldn't stay on campus. So so it sucked because you were just totally beat and all that stuff. But so when so 2 weeks later, the campus finally opens up, at least the dorms open up, and then you move in. For me, that was awesome because now it's like I didn't have to drive an hour each way or whatever, you know, like I could just train, go to my apartment and crash, you know? So, I mean, but you know, I think it's different when you're a guy, maybe.
But don't you think it's a generational thing as well? To some extent?
To some extent, it's generational. It's a lot of things, but it's just interesting. It's just interesting seeing like, you know, each one of my kids is different,
Right?
And they have different ways of dealing with certain things. And to be honest, I think my daughter's the most I don't know, the most adventurous, I guess I should say.
Sure.
You know, she's pretty fearless, and so to hear from her this morning,
Right.
she's freaking out.
Well, the reason I ask about the generational thing is
Yeah.
because I'm hearing this from other friends of mine, you know, with kids that are college age.
Right.
And it seems like, you know, this younger generation loves staying closer to home.
Yeah,
They
it's true.
sort of loathe leaving, you know, the home life.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them don't even want to get their driver's license.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
they're
one of my kids.
Ubering or they're doing whatever, you know.
Yeah, it is.
I
true.
like you, couldn't wait to
Right.
get out of the house.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have one kid who has a driver's license. I have one kid who doesn't, or one son, I should say, who doesn't. You know, I think they would rather stay at home and work on stuff that they're interested in than have to, you know, find their own place and deal with all the BS that's happening out there. I don't know. I think it is a generational thing, but also, you know, it's like what's people's dreams nowadays, you know, like
Right.
what are they looking forward to? And most of the time I don't know. I think I know, but then I talk to them and I realize I don't know. You know, so it's a weird thing. So for example, here's a funny thing that happened. So my daughter, of course, needed a laptop. She's going to start college, right? And one of my sons, you know, has his laptop, whatever, kind of a hand-me-down that we refurbished.
Sure.
But it's a nice Mac he has and all that. My other son doesn't have a computer. Doesn't need a computer. Doesn't want a computer, right? Even though he's in college, he's just like, whatever. I don't need it.
He has a smartphone. He probably
He
uses
just
that.
he's everything on the phone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So last week, you know, my daughter's bugging about her laptop. So, you know, my wife takes her to go get her laptop. So $1,400 later, you know,
Ouch.
she has the MacBook that she wanted.
Ouch.
Okay, brand new MacBook.
1,400 big ones.
Right.
Yeah.
We come home, whatever. the next day, in the mail from, or not in the mail, but what is it called? Amazon delivery.
Amazon, never heard of it.
Never heard
What
of
is
it?
that?
So Amazon's this company sends these boxes to your house.
Are they based in South America? Are they
Amazonians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amazon shows up, big box. My son's like, "Oh, it's my laptop." I'm like, "What?
Excuse
your
me?
laptop?" That's what I said. What do you mean your laptop? Opens it up. Yeah, he's got a brand new laptop. $125 laptop from Amazon.
125.
Yeah. No, it's a Windows.
Big difference. Why couldn't your daughter have done that?
Because she's my daughter. Because the daughter needs a $1,400 laptop, and the son needs a $125 laptop.
Well, women are more complicated. They are. I mean,
Something.
you know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. And I bet you my son's going to use the computer
Well, hey, you know what?
a lot more than he should.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing, right? So you got 2 computers for $1,525. So that's like under $800 each. You came out. We came out. That worked out okay.
Jesus.
Let's just hope that Windows machine at 125 can stand the test of time, and he doesn't turn around next week and go like, yeah, Dad, I need a Mac.
Yeah, he's going to destroy it in about a week.
About a week.
I give it a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we should wager.
Yeah.
You know, how long is it going to take for him to turn back around and say, you know what, this pay for what you get for what you pay. This 125 laptop sucks.
Well, here's the funny thing. He's got a PayPal account, and but he doesn't have a checking account. Okay.
Sure.
So whenever he wants to buy stuff
Yeah.
on eBay or Amazon or wherever, he needs to pay through his PayPal. But if he doesn't have money in there, he's got to somehow get his cash from his wallet and get it into PayPal, right? So how does he do that?
Probably works through you on some level.
Of course.
Yeah.
So he gives me the cash, and then I throw him the PayPal, right?
Right.
So just so you know, my son, one of my sons, is
That you know about.
that I know about, is avid airsoft gun collector.
You lost me.
I know. So airsofting is basically a BB gun.
Okay. Yeah, I had a
Okay.
BB gun when I
Right,
was
yeah,
a kid.
BB gun.
Okay.
Okay, but did you have a BB gun that looks like a real freaking AK-47?
That I did not have. I might have dreamt of it, but no,
Yeah.
I did not have that.
So they have airsoft guns, which are technically BB guns. In like replicas of like every single gun out there.
That's a really good way of getting yourself freaking killed.
Oh, I know. And think about a Latino kid,
So
in the backyard.
it's like
shooting,
these fucking cops are killing kids with fucking water guns,
Yeah.
with squirt guns,
Exactly.
and he's got a BB gun that looks like an AK.
Yeah. Well, it's got an orange tip, so it's all right.
That's all. Yeah. That's. Well, you didn't tell me that. You should have
Yeah.
led with that. With the orange tip, I'm not worried now.
Well, it was funny because when he used to first, when he first started collecting these guns and go shooting with his friends, they would go into elementary schools when they were closed, like on the weekends,
Yeah.
and play war in there.
Interesting.
And I didn't know they were doing that.
Oh boy.
So one day, I realized they were doing that, and I went over there and I go, "Are you freaking crazy? There's like 4 of you with guns. Okay, they're airsoft guns, but with guns in a neighborhood.
Post Columbine.
Post everything.
Right.
Running around, shooting each other, right?
Yeah.
Hiding, ducking, running, causing commotion. Like, don't you realize someone's gonna freaking call the cops on you? Like,
Yeah.
why? Why would they? We're just playing." So I had to like literally forbid him to do that, and like, now they have these airsoft freaking, I'll say a camp, but I don't know, they're called the campsites or areas. I don't know what the hell they're called.
Parks, camps.
Yeah, it's like an airsoft
I know
park.
what you mean. It's like like they have like fake war games or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like ranges or whatever.
Right. It's like but it's like dude. I went to one of those.
It's a course.
Oh, it's a course.
Right.
But dude, I don't know what's up with what's going on in this world, but I finally went one day to drop him and his cousins and his friends off to one of these places. Dude, there was grown ass men there in camouflage pickup trucks and like freaking almost tank looking vehicles there. I mean, setting up camp. I mean, dude, these grown ass men, fucking my
war
age,
playing war games,
Yeah,
you know,
with airsoft guns, you know, and
now, yeah. So what's the because I mean, you know, I've heard paintball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that in the world of paintball,
right,
that there are these crazy motherfuckers that take it to another level, and they've got the gear, and there are leagues, and maybe there's even professional, payouts now and stuff. But and it sounds like this is a BB gun. So it is a pellet? It is like a BB?
It's a plastic.
That's a
BB.
plastic BB. Okay.
But it freaking hurts, dude.
Sure.
Like this.
It could still put out an eye.
Oh, it's a strong ass gun.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so they're out there and they're shooting, and I don't know what it's just for fun. There's no. I don't think it's a professional. I don't know. Maybe there is. Who knows? But it's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing, and it just. But the whole point I was trying to make was that usually he's asking me to put money in his PayPal so he can buy a gun. And I don't know about it until the freaking 6-foot thing shows up to the front door.
What are you doing with an AK?
No, he's got this gun. I'm not kidding. It looks like from a Star Wars movie. It's probably like 5 feet long. And it's massive gun. And it's just airsoft. But anyways, he collects all these things. So that day that all of a sudden the laptop shows up, I'm like, hey, I was kind of proud of him. I was like, you just spent $125 on a computer.
Right.
Instead of an airsoft gun.
What you don't know is that he also bought a 3D printer, and now he's going to start printing his own guns.
Well, what I do know is that the reason he got the laptop is because he wants to play online games, shooting his friends online. You know, those freaking...
the multiplayer games. Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Oh man.
So I don't know what to do. Whatever.
Yeah, well, get some Kevlar. Get some Kevlar and prepare for battle.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna.
Well, see, this is what I have to look forward to with my kids.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, my kids are 5 and 1, and I guess I have guns in my future.
Well, my son, since he was little, he was dressing up in fatigues, and he always, was.
You couldn't find him anywhere because he was all camoed out.
Yeah.
You're like, where's Max?
It's like every Halloween, he was an army or a.
Right. Or he's sitting right in front of you. You can't see him. He's all camoed out. That's one way of getting past your parents.
Right. So that's how he would do it. So I always knew, and I don't know where I got it from. I hate guns,
But I mean, look, the gun, and I mean, unfortunately, we're running out of time. We're going to have to wrap it. We'll talk more about this later. I mean, the gun conversation is definitely something to talk about, and we will. But I mean, guns are so ingrained in American culture. I don't care where you come from or what the deal is. And boys, some of our listeners might call me sexist for saying this, but within our DNA, the male species was meant to hunt, to kill, to provide and protect, and I think a male's interest in weaponry or fighting or aggression comes from this very honest primal place. And and then the guns thing. Well, you can thank our culture, our history, for America to be the country of guns in the world,
right? And
it just plays itself out. So it's kind of like it's so pervasive. It's so integral to our culture. Like, good fucking luck, trying to avoid it. I mean, right. That just what? Don't even bother. Just strap up.
So on the way here, actually, I'm behind this pickup truck, and he's got. And for those of you who don't know, we're in Los Angeles, California.
L.A.
So we're not.
Hollywood.
So this is not like we're in Texas or something,
Right.
you know. But the
Shout out
pickup,
Texas.
yeah.
Look 'em.
So the truck in front of me has these stickers, right?
Yeah.
And one of them says, you know, proud gun carrying
Trump supporter.
proud gun carrying citizen since 1776 or some shit like that, right? Okay, cool.
Old motherfucker.
Yeah. And then he's got another sticker, and it says, it has a big bullet, like a big black bullet with a face on it, like an angry face.
Right.
So you got the angry bullet.
Yeah. There you
Okay.
go. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Have you ever met a happy bullet?
Yeah, never have. So then below that sticker is another sticker, and it says, nothing in my truck is worth dying for.
Hey, he's carrying, man. He's got it. He's got it under the seat.
You know, and then his license plate is like Second Amendment, don't tread on me. You know?
Right.
And it's like, really, dude? Is your dick that small? Like, you know, like, I have nothing against. You want to carry a gun? I've been shooting. I fucking shot stuff before.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I get it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And in some areas, sure, like, you know, you're on the fucking Arctic.
Right.
Of course,
protection.
It's protection. You need
food.
Grizzly bears.
Yeah.
You need food. Okay, I get it. You know, you want to go to the gun range and shoot. That's cool too. You know,
Right.
but do you have to display the whole fucking thing on the back of your pickup truck? Like,
No.
like, is that so necessary? You know,
Apparently you do.
apparently you do.
Apparently,
you know,
you know.
and I wanted to piss this guy off too. I just wanted to, I wanted to get into some kind of road rage
Right.
incident with him. Just because.
I've always fantasized about pulling this prank because I'm a bit of a prankster, a bit of a jokester, and I've always imagined that I would pull up. There'd be like some guy walking on the street.
Yeah.
I'd pull up, and I'd have a 9mm in my hand. I'd be like, "Get in the car! Get in the car! Get in the car!" Get him in the car. I put the gun to his face, and I pull the trigger, and it's a squirt gun.
Yeah.
It's just like squirt.
Oh yeah.
Right? Of course, as he realizes
Right.
this and he starts to get pissed off, I pull out a real 9mm, I cock it, I go, "Get the fuck out of the car, get the fuck out of the car." And then I drive off.
Yeah.
You know, just a prank.
Just a prank.
All right, my friend, we're out of time here. Great catching up.
All right, man. Well, sourdough
In the house.
in the house. Catch you on the flip side.
All right, late.
Peace.